last night we brought you the first part of our special series on illegal guns. We brought you to the heart of the so-called iron pipeline. It's a highly efficient, organized, and very profitable gun trafficking businesses that moves guns from dealers to criminals. The people who buy the guns and then sell them to criminals who are barred by law from buying guns themselves, those folks are called straw buyers. And it looks as though gun shops are unlikely to deny sales to those straw buyers. Now, an investigation by the advocacy group Mayors Against Illegal Guns found that 94% of licensed dealers who were approached as part of an undercover sting at gun shows in Ohio, Tennessee, and Nevada sold guns to people who appeared to be either criminals or straw buyers. Illegal guns are epidemic in our country, fed by a steady stream of gun sellers who do not conduct background checks and take cash for those weapons. So today we take you inside a Northeast Philadelphia gun shop at the center of accusations that its owner sells to straw buyers. And it's in one of 10 states that considered to be most responsible for cross-state movement of guns, Pennsylvania. Our Kim Lengel has been following this story. She joins us now to bring us along with her in her journey through the so-called iron pipeline.
That's right, Andrew. This is our second part. Yesterday, we met Bryan Miller, a gun violence prevention advocate whose brother, a special agent in the FBI, was fatally shot by a crazed gunman who stormed D.C. police headquarters in 1994.
He was looking to kill the chief of homicide, but he got bad directions. He opened a door where my brother was working and pulled out his MAC-10. It was about this big. It's an assault pistol, 32 bullet clip, much like Jared Loughner in Tucson. Started firing and killed my brother, his FBI partner, a D.C. police sergeant, grievously wounded a third FBI agent, and a teenage girl just happened to be in the room.
The FBI later learned that the gunman, already a suspect in a triple homicide, had illegally purchased the gun from a straw buyer. When the ATF examined gun trafficking for 2 years in the late 90s, they found that 46%, close to half of all gun trafficking, involves straw purchasers. Now, it's not only illegal, but remains one of the easiest ways for criminals to get their hands on guns. The premise is simple. A person who can legitimately pass a license check goes into a gun shop and buys one or more guns that they then sell to criminals. People like Bryan Miller say it's creating an iron pipeline of guns flowing directly into your neighborhood. But gun shop owners like the one you're about to see say they're following the law. Fred Delia's gun shop in Northeast Philadelphia has been in business 41 years. In its long history, it's attracted a huge customer base.
We pray for Mr. Delia that, in fact, he might be led to lead the way in ending gun violence.
And some critics who say the owner, Fred Delia, sells to straw buyers. We went in, cameras rolling, to find out. Hi, how are you?
You want to buy a gun?
Within the first few minutes came the hard sell.
How about a nice shotgun for your home? $285 out the door. You want me to run you?
And then came the show and tell.
I got one in my back. See this? I got one right here. I got one in my pocket. I got one here. I got one in my, I'm only kidding. I don't have one in my ankle. Just my back and my pocket.
Fred Delia is somewhat of a comedian when it comes to sales, but when asked if he sells to straw buyers, Fred Delia is dead serious. A lot of people are saying, though, you're selling guns in bulk.
That's not true.
You don't sell guns in bulk.
Well, actually, you know, as a civilian, you can buy as many as you want. You come in and buy 2 or 3 guns. You can buy them as long as the state says you're okay.
Fred Delia insists he's legitimate, that he's following the law and cooperating with ATF, the group that investigates federal crimes involving guns. But Jersey City Mayor Jerramiah Healy, a former judge and prosecutor, says the burden of gun violence has largely fallen on the big city mayors. In 2006, Mayor Healy joined a group of 15 other mayors, including New York City's mayor, Michael Bloomberg, for a summit later known as Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Healy says despite the fact that his city is in a state with some of the toughest gun control laws, illegal guns continue to flood its streets from nearby states that have weaker laws.
You can go to Pennsylvania, for instance, and then you know, I'm the gangbanger in the car. I send him in. He buys the guns. We cross the Delaware River. We stop in Paterson, open the trunk, sell them legally and criminally on the streets of Paterson. do the same in Newark, come to Jersey City, open the trunk again. If there's any left over, we can cross the Hudson River and continue the illegal and criminal enterprise. And I'm the person who's ultimately getting the guns, and he's the straw purchaser.
Cities like Newark, New Jersey, just 5 miles west of Jersey City, with sky-high employment, have become prime gun trafficking throughways, and has the crime stats to prove it. Of incidents this year alone, 248 victims suffered from gun violence, an increase of 40% from last year.
You can't have the multiple purchaser going in, the straw purchaser going in, buying a whole bunch of handguns and selling them to, or giving them out to the gangbangers on the streets.
According to ATF, just 1% of gun dealers are the source of 57% of guns recovered in crimes nationwide, meaning 99% of gun dealers run a pretty clean shop. Fred Delia says he fits that mold despite admitting he has sold to a female straw buyer.
She knew nothing about a gun, and she's buying a gun that she didn't want to touch, okay? She didn't want to look at it, so you know something's wrong.
You think she's a straw buyer?
Yeah, I do. The ATF come in, knock on the door and say, we're doing an audit at the gun shop. We just purchased a weapon, I'd like to see it. That starts it off right there. If she don't have that gun, she's locked up. Then automatically she starts giving up everybody, and they have caught a tremendous amount of people.
What does it do to your conscience when a woman like that walks in and she's fidgeting, she's nervous, you know, she's clearly not going to use the gun?
Well, what should it do? Because we don't know if she's really legitimate or is she illegal. How can we tell? You know, if they want me to stereotype the people, they say, no, don't do that. Because they'll come right after you. But I don't do none of that. I don't do none of that stuff. If she goes through the instant check, she's free. Then it's up to them to do their job.
What does it do to your conscience?
Not too much. I mean, I got children, I have grandchildren. We just got back from shooting. There's my picture on the wall holding 2 .45 automatics. You see it there? Mm-hmm. That's me, my grandkids where they shot them guns. They have a great time. Does nothing to me because we're doing what we're supposed to do, the right thing. And that's about it.
Fred Delia maintains that all his gun sales follow every letter of the law. And as far as the protesters outside, he says they're in the wrong place. Now, in the years since the Mayors Against Illegal Guns Coalition was formed, it's had a small influence. The national retailer Walmart has signed on to the group's code of conduct, agreeing, among other things, to videotape gun purchases. But that's something Fred Delia says he would never do. Andrew?
I was afraid they'll scare the customers away. You know, as I was watching that piece, I couldn't help but think of liquor stores or places that sell beer or wine and how they try to prevent sales to underage kids, to minors. Is there any way for a gun store owner like Fred Delia to know that he's got a straw purchaser in there? I mean, I know he said he could stereotype.
Right, and that's the issues with these states that have weaker gun laws, is that if someone comes in and he admitted he does have suspicions about certain people, but attorneys have told him he's not allowed to work only on those suspicions. If you pass the Pennsylvania Insta-Check, you are allowed to buy a gun.
But then going back to my alcohol analogy, if somebody sells, you know, a bunch of booze to somebody who then sells it to a minor and the minor gets in trouble,
right,
theoretically the store owner could be liable. Is there any liability for a gun store owner in a case like
this? Well,
this?
see, there is, if you look at Pennsylvania, for instance, the gun license forms, it does say that you're not going to sell these guns to someone else. So that's what makes this illegal, because you have to check that off.
But that's a penalty for the person who's buying the gun,
right,
not a penalty for the store that's selling them.
Exactly.
Interesting. Any crackdowns in all this? Any way to stop the number of...
It's just very hard to figure out where these guns come from, because of course, you know, when this happens, people say, oh, I lost my gun or it was stolen. And so states like New Jersey have enacted laws where if your gun is lost or stolen within 36 or 48 hours, you have to report that stolen or else you can be held criminally liable.
Very interesting. Kim Lengel, great piece. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're, of course, going to follow the story in the days and weeks to come.